So today I'm going to show you how to do pagination, as you can see on the screen. So you can actually page to page 1 to page 2, and it tells you the number of items in the page, in this case 16 to 30. And here we have 15 items per page, as you can see. You can also change it to 20, and this time you have 20 items per page, 1 to 20, you have to 40. You can actually change it to 50 items per page, and in that case, the more the items in the page, the lesser the number of pages, as you can see right here. We're going to be doing this, and then we're going to be doing sorting, searching, and also filtering of your data. So we are going to be doing it in this series. Today we are going to do pagination easily. It's going to be step by step. Actually, in the last tutorial, we did this, right? We did add, edit, delete, and details of a country. But you should actually not be doing this in your application. If you have something like a list of countries, you should not be adding new countries, editing countries. That doesn't make sense, because lists of countries actually exist online in public repositories. So it doesn't make sense for you to be creating countries or deleting countries. All these details are there. For instance, here we have the flag. If you want, you can actually add the coat of arms, the national anthem, the guinea, the GDP, the population, the area, the borders, the continent. A whole lot of things can be added. And let me show you where this API is available. So it's available here in REST countries. If you go to REST countries in Google and type REST countries, it takes you to restcountries.com. So if I just scroll down to this all, I can just copy this all and just simply go to all. You have a list of countries here. But let me teach you something. If you want your API list of items in JSON to be formatted neatly, actually display it using Firefox. So if I show it in Firefox now, you can see that Firefox is going to format it as a list like this, and you're able to easily see the fields available in that list just like this. So you can choose what you want. You want the area, the flag, the maps, the population, the car, the time zone, everything is there. So there's no need for you to be there's no need for you to do it yourself by doing add, get, post and delete like we did here. But in this case, you can use this, what you've learned in this tutorial, to do some other things. For instance, list of employees, list of cars. List of cars might also be available publicly, but let's say you can do it yourself in this case. So let's go ahead to get started. The step-by-step is right here in my website. I can just show you. Here, the step-by-step you're going to be following. This step-by-step contains all the codes. The step you're going to be following today to implement pagination. Let's do it right now. And we are going to be using Angular-powered Bootstrap. Give me a second. Let me just close up a few things. So here we have Angular-powered Bootstrap. So it's a UI library that you can use freely for your application. So if you go to component, you can see if I go to table, that's exactly where we are. What we want to do, we want to use tables. If I go to examples, you have this sortable table, searchable, search and filter pagination, and this pagination, as you can see right here. So let's go ahead to get started right now. And we are going to start from the scratch. We are going to create a new component and start from the scratch. So let me close up a few things and then let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we are going to be doing here now, because I've opened where we stopped, in this case there is no component, no REST country. So if I go back here to refresh the page, you see it's going to disappear because we don't already have it. What I showed you is a completed one. So let's go ahead to start from the scratch to do it right now. So the first thing we want to do is to create a component, a new component. I'm going to call it REST country. So I'm going to say NgGC REST. REST country. REST country, that's the name of the component I want to use. And we also need to add NgBootstrap to this application, because NgBootstrap is a library we are going to be using to implement pagination, sorting, and all these other things we mentioned. So I'm going to say bootstrap / NgBootstrap. I did add it before, but maybe it's just going to update. Okay, so the next thing I want us to do now is to actually test that this component works. Before we can test it, I'm going to add a route to actually give us a URL route to display this component. So I'm going to go to app routing module and simply add a new route. So the new routes is going to have a path to REST countries as a name, that's the route, and the component is going to be REST country component. So this, you go to / REST countries, it's going to display this component. So we are going to go ahead to test now. So I'm going to say ng-serve to start up this application, and we are going to actually test to see if this REST countries work. Okay, so application starts up. Let's wait for a second. Okay, so it starts up. So if I come here to refresh, so this is the previous one we have. So if I go to now REST countries, countries, you see that it says REST countries work, as you can see right here. So it works perfectly well. Okay, so this is fine. We now want to display the table. So the first thing we want to do, if I go back to the step-by-step, we now have to create an interface. Now, this is very important. If you want to fetch some data from an API, which has different fields, but you want to extract only a few of these fields to use in your application, you don't want to use all the fields in this API JSON response, because in this case, we have several fields, maybe flag, maybe map, and a whole lot of things, but you want to use only a few. You can place these few fields in an interface. And that's exactly what I did here. If you want actually to use more fields, you simply add it to your interface. And so that's what I have as my interface. I choose about 6 different fields: name, capital, population, area, flag, and continent. And that's what I decided to use. For you, you can use additional fields, or you can use a few more. Okay, so we now want to write a function to get the list of countries from the public API onto our application. And that's this function right here. This is very different from what you know. So here we are returning a list of countries. What we are going to do, we are going to actually map 2 times. The first time we are mapping through the list of countries coming back, and the second time we let's see, so we are mapping through the list of the response, and we are mapping a second time to extract different fields this time. So that's why we map 2 times. So I'm going to copy and paste. Instead of typing it out and wasting time. I'm going to REST countries, and REST country, and it's going to be the TS file. Actually, I think I made some mistake. So this interface will be inside REST country. Okay, it should be inside the REST country component, not inside the app routing component. So I'm copying it across from here, and I'm going to paste it just here. Okay, so this is where I'm pasting my interface. All right, so I want to create. First, I need to import from import JX, and I need to create HTTP clients here, because HTTP client is used for making HTTP GET requests. So I'm using it here. So I need to create a variable of type HTTP client. So I'm going to call it HTTP client. It's going to be HTTP client. And I'm also going to check in my app module that HTTP client module is imported. So if I go to the import section, you see HTTP client module needs to be imported right here. Now, if you look at what is happening here, you see that we have E here. It says E is of implicit type any, which is okay. It could be any is okay. But TypeScript is trying to force you to assign a type, that's why it's TypeScript is different from JavaScript. It does the strict typing. So I'm going to turn strict typing off, so that it's not going to be always trying to complain when I don't give a type. So I'm going to my TS config. I go to my TS config. So if I see in my TS config, you have this strict, just change it to false. Change it to false, and save everything, and the error should actually go away, as you can see. All right, so at this point, if I go to the init method and I call get countries, by the way, returns an observable. When you are making a get request, an observable comes back. So if I say get countries here, can actually say dot subscribe. Sorry, give me a second. If I call get countries, let me just call get countries here. And here, instead of having this, I'm going to simply console log the response, console.log, and let's display the response to the console, and let's see if actually this response comes. For sure it comes, but let's just check. If I come back here and refresh this page, and this time I'm going to go to inspect, and if I go to console, we don't have anything because so the console.log actually runs before it actually displays anything. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to simply console log the return value, from this REST country. So I'm console logging whatever comes back. So if I save everything now, hopefully we should have something displayed. Yeah, so it displays an observable, and yeah, so not the actual data. So to display the actual data, we simply have to subscribe to it. So I think I could say that subscribe x such that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to now say console.log x. So if I save everything, we should be able to see some data in the console. So you can see we have some data in the console because the get request for HTTP client returns an observable, so we have to subscribe to it so that it's going to only display when we have data that has come, that have been returned. So that's what we have here. All right, so let's go follow the procedure and proceed. So we have the next thing we can do. Okay, console log, that's fine. We increase the font of this a little bit. Now we need to create a countries variable to hold the list of countries that comes back. So I'm going to go to create a countries variable. So I'm going to say countries, and it's going to be a list of country like this, okay? So this is going to hold when the data is fetched from the external API, it's going to be assigned to this countries object so that I can reuse it for filtering, for searching for anything. So we want to have a copy of this available. Later we're going to be putting it in local storage, not just in a variable like this. All right. So we now want to write two functions. One of these functions is called the load. The load loads the initial value of this data coming from the public API, the list of countries loads, and at the same time it puts it in a local storage so that we don't have to keep making get requests to get the list of countries every time, because it's going to be expensive. So when we get it for the first time, when the application starts, we are going to place it in a local storage, and any other time we want it, we're going to fetch it from the local storage. Okay, so we need to set some initial values. When the country loads on the page, we want to display the first page initially. We want to have the collection size is 250 countries, and the initial page size I want it to be 15 or 20. So I'm going to just place these initializations somewhere here, and let's see. So I'm going to just place this one here, and let me use the initial page size of 15. Okay, so now refresh countries is a code that actually runs when the country is refreshed. Okay, but I would like to write the load country first. So the load country calls get countries and then use the return value and saves it into the local storage, and also saves it into the countries variable. So I'm going to place the load country here, and what's happening here is calls the get country subscribe and assigns the response to countries state, and then sets the local storage as well. It places a list of countries in the local storage in your system, and then calls the refresh countries. Refresh now slices and displays only the first page. So that's what refresh does. It displays the first slice so that everything is not displayed initially. And so I'm going to now, you now need to call the load countries function on the init method. So on the init method, I'm going to remove what is there. So we are calling on a init method. We are going to load the countries, and I'm going to now refresh after loading, because we have refresh after loading on init as well. We load and then we refresh. So I'm going to place the refresh here. Refresh, okay. Okay, so basically this should be easy, right? So we have the load countries, get country, subscribe, set the country state, set the local storage, place it in the local storage and refresh. Refresh slices up and displays the first 15 items. And then refresh, we say countries is gets the country from the local storage and then maps through. So these I would like you to take some time to take a look at it. You don't have to actually know every bit of this code, but basically it's mapping through the countries and slicing based on the page size that has been specified here. Okay, so let's see. And the next thing we want to do now, we need to call the load country function on init, okay, which is what I've done. Now the HTML page is also very easy. That's a basic HTML table. So this is a markup for the table. So I'm going to actually copy this markup for the table. I'm going to copy the markup for the table, and then I'm trying to explain it one a bit to you. I think it's very easy to follow, except that the code for the paging, I'm going to show you where it actually comes. So I'm going to the HTML, there's the HTML, and I'm going to paste the markup here, okay? Now at this point, I'm going to simply make some room and then explain to you what is happening here. Now I have the header. The header is, we have all these headers. This first one contains the ID. This one will be the flag. This is the country, capital, population. So the ID, right? So we say NG for country of countries, and we are also taking the index. And in the first column, we display the index. And this is the index, the code to display the index based on the page, the current page. So there's the country, the flag. We are displaying it as an IMG, right? We're setting the height and the width, and we display the country name, the population. Now the country population is a number, so we are actually going to format it as a number so that it can add the commas in the numbers, and area is a number as well, so that's why we have to pipe it as a number. Now this is where the actual pagination actually happens. So basically what is happening here, let me just tell you what is happening here. We have this select list to display a drop down, okay, to display a drop down of items to select. And we have these pagination items display the current page as well as all the pages. Now when there is a page change event occurring, something is going to happen. The page size, not the page size, but the number of items page is set by this ng model here. The page size is here, so here we have a two-way binding. So when you select in a drop-down, it's going to refresh, right, using the page size. And when you also page, is also going to refresh as well using the page size, but in this case, it also takes the page, which may be page 1, page 2, page 3, depending on what you actually clicked. So this is actually how pagination works. Let's go ahead to test it to see. I have not tested it, but let's just see if it works well. And if I go back to my page, you see it actually displays. But let's see if actually the page displays. Okay, yeah, so we have the pages display right here. We have 1, 2, 3, and it's working. I'm going to change here to 20, and it's also working perfectly well. So this is how to perform pagination in Angular using NgBootstrap. That is Angular powered Bootstrap, which I also showed you. NgBootstrap. Now the next thing you may be talking about is how do we do sorting, how do we do filtering or searching for an item. If you go to the components here and go to tables, you'll see some samples we are going to be talking about after now, because I don't want to make this class be too long. So I'm going to be stopping here. We're going to be doing filtering and searching immediately after now. I would like to remind you, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel right now by clicking on the subscribe button below. Also, leave me a comment if you have any challenges whatsoever following my class in data science or React or maybe Spring Boot or Java. Also, leave me a comment as well to let me know what challenges you may have. Reach out to me by email, connect to me by my social network profile, be LinkedIn, be Instagram, or be GitHub. GitHub here you can find the complete repository for this application. And let's see in the next part. I remain Times on the Tech Pro, and I'm always there for you.